Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people, the bust, and everybody else in between. Let's do this thing. The Thursday night throwdown has begun. And normally I say, well, the second half has just started. There is no second half tonight. There'll be second halves on Saturday. There'll be second halves on Sunday. There'll be a second half on Monday. But there is no second half tonight. But we're going to break it all down tonight. We really do have a full house on the program this evening. I don't even know where to get started. I guess we'll get started with one of our favorite college football guests, Brent Beard. Brent Beard will step up and in from Jacksonville, Florida. First Coast News college football analyst, Brent Beard in the house. Rick Saratella kicks it with us on a Thursday night throwdown tonight. So we got Brent Beard, Rick Saratella, Griffin Murphy in the house tonight. So we're going to have a lot of different opinions about the national championship game. We'll talk NFL football as well. The Ranger Redhead, Cam Stewart in the house. Drew Martin Betts in the house. So we're going to have a lot of national championship talk tonight and tomorrow night, giving you the breakdowns because we're not going to be on. We're not going to be on before the game. It's pretty crazy to say that, actually. Like tomorrow, I'll be on with Scott Farrell, so we'll talk about it. Me and Farrell will definitely talk about it on Sunday, but it'll be NFL in-game. We'll be in-game coverage and stuff. So really tonight and tomorrow are our last opportunities, and a program alert. We will not be on Monday night. There's a special college football show live from the studios in New York, and I'm not in the studio in New York. So we will not be on Monday night during the national championship game. So tonight and tomorrow night, we'll give you all our breakdowns. We'll do a bunch of videos, though, and stuff like that. We're fired up for this football game. And we have the NFL as well, but this national championship game just is as cool as it gets. Shout out to everyone joining us on SiriusXM Channel 159 on the SportsGrid radio networks. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. We got a full house on the program tonight. A lot of college football talk. Drew Martin in the house. Brent Beard kicks it with us. Rick Saratella, Griffin Murphy. We've got a bunch of NHL hockey games going off the board, actually. The Ranger Redhead, Cam Stewart, no doubt will have action on all these hockey games this evening. The Vancouver Canucks and the St. Louis Blues are tied at 1 right now. The Islanders are up on the Coyotes, but let's talk about the games we're getting ready to drop the puck. The Florida Panthers and the Las Vegas Golden Knights, straight from the Strip in Las Vegas, Nevada, where the Super Bowl will be. The Panthers. So this is a Stanley Cup rematch. I always like the team that lost the championship in these rematches, like the regular season rematches. And incidentally, Michigan and Washington will be playing each other on October the 5th in Washington. So I'll gladly say that, Michigan wins on Monday and Washington can win on October the 5th and get their little payback. I've been there. I remember the Dallas Cowboys, like everyone, if you're old enough to know and remember this, but the Dallas Cowboys smoked the Buffalo Bills in back-to-back Super Bowls. And the next year, after the second time, they played like the first game of the year. And the Buffalo Bills won the game. Of course they won the game. The game, wasn't the Super Bowl. So of course they won the game. But I've always remembered that, and we've seen this time and time again. So I'm just saying, Stanley Cup rematch tonight, Florida Panthers, minus 125. I do like Stanley C. Panther in this hockey game. And listen, I thought the Seattle Kraken were going to be a pretty good team this year. They were mediocre. They were subpar to start the season. They're starting to pick it up right now. We'll see if they can continue the momentum off of their outdoor win. It's more so as well. They're playing the Ottawa Senators. I don't really understand this line in the sense that the Ottawa Senators are bad, right? Like this is, they're supposed to be good. They're a lot like the Buffalo Sabres. They could be good, but they're not. Sometimes they are. There's always turmoil. There's always something. And, the Sens, it's funny because if you guys remember, I liked the Sens last year. I bet their season win total, and I lost by 0.5 point. And everybody this year talked about, the Senators are going to take the step up. But I was like, no, they won't. They won't. I was on it last year. And it wasn't a case where like, oh, yeah, it's coming. It's coming. It was like, no, it's just never going to kind of happen for this team. It's just one of those type of deals right now. And, it's just sort of a lost season right now. But nevertheless, I like the Kraken tonight at minus 130. I don't really have an opinion on the Kings and Red Wings. I guess you could parlay the Kings and Jets. I'm not really a fan of these two-team chalk parlays, to be honest. But if you want to do it, the LA Kings and Winnipeg Jets, it pays plus 112. I guess you can justify that it's actually plus money. What I did play, though, so I am on, as I stated, I'm on the Seattle Kraken minus 130. We're on the Florida Panthers minus 125. And we are on the Golden State Warriors plus the 4 points. So we've got plus 4 with the Golden State Warriors against the Denver Nuggets tonight. And the Warriors, they're not the same team that they used to be. Obviously they're not. And the Denver Nuggets are, the defending champions. Pretty crazy, that Aaron Gordon stuff. They got attacked by a dog. You don't hear that often. Player out because he got attacked by a dog. Aaron Gordon got bit by a dog pretty badly, but he's back. He returned the last game. He missed a couple of games. But Denver and Golden State, they play close. Denver have beaten them recently, but they play close games all the time. And getting the points tonight, I just sort of got the feeling that that the Warriors could do what the Lakers can't do and sort of step up and win a basketball game on their home court. So, we pulled the trigger. We rolled the dice with the Golden State Warriors plus the points tonight. But I'm not going crazy with these plays. We'll get into some college basketball as well. I'm not going crazy with these plays. We are getting ready to go crazy with our football plays, and we're already starting to put together, sort of look at some of these parlays. And we've got a couple of championship games this weekend. South Dakota State and Montana are playing. And the other college football playoffs. And I tell you what, this South Dakota State team, they haven't lost in a long time, man. Like, they're good. And I've been betting on this stuff. I don't understand why they've been off for so long, but it's literally, they've been off for 2 weeks, these teams now. But South Dakota State's going to beat them. So if you take Michigan to beat Washington, if you think Michigan's going to beat Washington, and I know that South Dakota State is going to beat Montana, a Michigan-South Dakota State parlay is minus 130, moneyline parlay. Yet, I figured, you know what? This is a big weekend for us. The Buffalo Bills in a must-win situation on Sunday night. Let's add the Buffalo Bills on the money line. Michigan, South Dakota State, Buffalo Bill moneyline parlay pays plus 184. It's actually not too bad, but my strategy will be, we'll get into it tonight, my strategy will be to sort of put Michigan at the back end of a couple of parlays. So we go into Monday night having the Michigan Wolverines on the money line, but having them in a bunch of plus money parlays to close out a bunch of plus 184. The Thursday Night Throwdown has begun. This is SportsRage.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but he's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
56% is really good. Anything close to 60 is retirement level stuff. So there's way more people on the lower side of that. You have to learn how to manage that. This is a game of give and take. Or come in quick and hit them and get out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina, we've got new sports books operating for licenses. And, you know, a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
They were saying there's no way he could not possibly do this. He won't hold out.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca.
Scoring teams in the league. They have 80 goals so far.
College football today.
The Hawks team total in the first half is 0.5.
Pro football today.
Interesting props in this game, but I would be cautious laying this number here with the Houston Texans.
In-game live all access.
In the NFC in terms of these wild cards and in terms of the playoff.
In-game live, prime time.
Rich, I don't know, man. This has just been one of those games that doesn't make a lick of sense.
In-game live, overtime.
You want to give you over 3-1 on a pretty good team. It's hard not to take some flyers.
Football full circle.
Well, NFL officials stink. They always will stink, and they'll always ruin the game. Yeah, that's just part of what it is.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. As we stated, we've got a full house on the program tonight. Rick Saratella, Brent Beard, Griffin Murphy, the Rage Red Cam Stewart, Drew Martin, Betts. We're loaded, locked and loaded tonight. We gave you the Golden State Warriors. We're on the Golden State Warriors plus the points in this game. They're off to a 16-9 start right now. They've got an early lead, but they're still getting 3.5 points right now if you want to jump in. But there's a bunch of hockey that's just starting right now, including the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights. We're about 2.5, 3 minutes into this hockey game. We're 3 minutes into the Kraken and the Senators. Drew Martin Betts is actually a Florida Panther fan. This is a Stanley Cup rematch, and we know how things went. The Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup. I was saying earlier, I always like teams that lost the championship in regular season rematches the following year. There's an extra layer of motivation for the Florida Panthers coming into this game. So I did play the Florida Panthers tonight, despite the fact that they were minus 125 road favorites. And I took the Seattle Kraken. Cam, who do you have tonight in these hockey games?
It's funny you mentioned that, Gabe. We're on the same vibe, Drew. Me and Gabe are with you with Stanley C. Panther, old friend of the program. He's a friend. We're taking the Panthers. We're taking the Kraken with the red-hot Joey Decord and a parlay with the Kings, Panthers, and Kraken. The big money. So we're hitting the NHL hard, Morency, after the golf today. Let's have some winners in the late night stretch. Let's make it a nice Thursday.
Sahith Theegala was a first-round leader. Yep. Cam jumped on him to be first-round leader. Brady Cannon gave him to win the tournament. So great start right there. Let's bring in Drew Martin Betts right now. Drew, your Florida Panthers in action against the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't like picking on the Vegas Golden Knights much. It's a tough game, especially it's crazy that the Panthers are actually small road favorites, but I do think they beat the Knights tonight.
Sure. I mean, what a great team overall it was, getting all the way to the Stanley Cup. I was actually at the game that they won, Gabe, coming from behind. It was a great time there in Sunrise. But being on the road, laying a short price, I think the market's telling us something. Give me Stanley C. Panther as well. I'm with you, boys.
Yeah,
a trendy pick tonight with the Florida Panthers. St. Louis Blues are up 2-1 on the Vancouver Canucks with 8 minutes left in the third period. We'll keep you up to date with that hockey game as well as the NBA game. But, Drew, the college football playoffs, explosive. Absolutely explosive, the college football playoffs. And the numbers are in. 27.2 million viewers tuned in for the University of Michigan and the University of Alabama's Rose Bowl. That's a big number right there. 27 million people. Best semifinals since year one, top 10 cable broadcast of all time, peaked out with 32.8 million viewers. Meanwhile, the big mighty Texas Longhorns and the Washington Huskies got 18.4 million viewers. Still very big numbers, but pretty big discrepancy and drop-off. And you can't say that the game started that late. It was like a little after 8 Eastern or whatnot. But what did you think, Drew, of the semifinals?
I mean, overall, Gabe, I was jealous of you, man. Being at that game, I've been in the Rose Bowl, whatever it is, the mountains, the sunset. It is
what a special
great
place.
scene. Oh, it really is, man. There's nothing like it. And being out there, I don't think a lot of people realize, like, there's a golf course there that you can, like, tailgate on, things of that nature. It kind of brings an added element to it. But great stadium overall. That game going into overtime, it was a great one to watch. And then flipping over to the Texas-Washington game, it kind of, I almost felt like we were, after such a great Rose Bowl, going to be in for, a letdown. And sure enough, Michael Penix and company, man, they brought the goods. So it was a great Sugar Bowl as well. I almost wonder, bringing up the ratings, and I know the Sugar Bowl did pretty well, Washington and Texas, you just brought up the numbers on cable. I wonder why the Rose Bowl was so much more. Yeah, it might have been a little bit of timing, although I don't really buy into that with big games, particularly on New Year's Day. It's not like a lot of people are doing anything anyway. I would think it actually might come down to the brands in the actual Rose Bowl, bringing in all three of those like big elements, Michigan, Alabama, and the Rose Bowl with that great setting. It makes sense that it was the most watched cable product in quite some time.
Yeah, top 10 cable broadcast of all time, which is just unbelievable. I think it's a good point that you stated. Michigan are a massive brand, Alabama are a massive brand, and the Rose Bowl was just this special place. It was a perfect, and it was a perfect combination. And then you throw in the actual game itself. It was just like this classic heavyweight fight. You throw in Harbaugh versus Saban. There was just so much to it, which leads us to the title game. So there hasn't been a lot of movement throughout the week until now. And there's been movement with the total, guys. It's been sitting at 55.5 all week. It's moved to 56.5 right now. So the money, somebody has pushed this number up there right now. Drew, what's your impression of the point spread? Before we get your pick, what did you think when you saw this point spread for this game and the total?
You know what, Gabe? It's one of those where I usually don't like to look at anything. But right after the game, the broadcast went into, projecting. It's welcome to 2024, right? The point spread is part of the broadcast. So I saw the number. And I was kind of kicking myself because I'd like to make my own number and then bet into the opening number. But 4.5, it made sense. I thought it would be more than a field goal and less than a touchdown. So sure enough, it was right there at 4.5. So no big surprises for me, Gabe. I guess that's how I would say reading of the line. I do like the over at first glance. I'll tell you that much. I mean, we get a fast track controlled climate. And I guess we can get into the pick in a little bit, but I do lean over right off the open. But spread-wise, it was right where I thought it would be, Gabe.
And the total has moved up to 56.5 right now, guys. I have a hard time believing that there won't be points put up on the board in this game. I hammered both overs of the – I love the over. It took overtime to get there, but it got there.
Yeah,
but I really like the over of Michigan and Alabama. I said Michigan was going to win 28-21. They won 27-20. So I sort of was in that realm. And, that the Sugar Bowl went kind of the way that we thought it was going to go. This one's trickier, Cam. You have the best offense versus the best defense. So something has to give there. But then you get into the fact of the matter is Michigan's offense is underrated. And I talked about this coming into the Alabama game. Everybody talks so much about how is Michigan going to deal with a mobile quarterback like Milroe. Mm-hmm. Nobody talked about, well, how is Alabama going to deal with J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum and these guys?
Correct.
And a diverse, very unpredictable attack that Michigan throws at you. So I think when it comes back to this game, I've reiterated over and over and over again. I don't think that the Washington Huskies are going to be able to stop Michigan on the ground, Cam. That's going to be the big difference. That's going to be why I think Washington lose this game.
The more I think about this game, Gabe, at first I'm like, ooh, points with Washington. Then I'm like really breaking this thing down. What is the best defense the Washington Huskies face this year? Oregon State? You guys tell me. That's the whole thing. Michigan? Look at them,
Yes.
Gabe. Like, that's the thing. Yeah,
And
that's
it
what
was
I'm
a
talking about. Yes.
22-20 game.
The Oregon State
They played
Beavers,
Washington State 24-21.
Yes. And where's Michigan's defense in compared to the Oregon State Beavers and Washington State Cougars? They're not even the same hemisphere. They've never seen a pass rush like this before. They never seen. I know Washington, they got their tight end cooking now. They got receivers, but it's an issue. Let me tell you this. In Michigan, you want to turn this into a street fight? That's the problem. Washington is kind of like the sizzle and Michigan's the steak. That's the whole situation. And they're going to bang, bang, bang all night long. I think Michigan's probably going to win this game, Gabe. The more I think about it, I think they're going to win by like 13 to 16 points. Like, I think it's not even going to be close. I thought Washington earlier, but I've totally changed my tune. Michigan in a romp.
Imagine Washington give up 137 yards a game, guys, on the ground in a pass-happy Pac-12 conference.
Mm-hmm. It's a problem.
How many teams line it up on the ground and play smash-mouth football with them? We saw Texas rack up over 180 on them on the ground. More on the other side. This is Sports Rage.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
56% is really good. Anything close to 60 is retirement level stuff. So there's way more people on the lower side of that. You have to learn how to manage that. This is a game of give and take. I mean, or come in quick and hit them and get out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina, we've got new sports books operating for licenses, and a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
They were saying there's no way he could not possibly do this. He won't hold out.
Pro League Soccer
The
powered by Marca.
Scoring teams in the league. They have 80 goals so far.
College football today.
The Hawks team total in the first half is 0.5.
Pro football today.
Interesting props in this game, but I would be cautious laying this number here with the Houston Texans.
In-game live all access.
The NFC in terms of these wild cards and in terms of the playoff picture.
In-game live, prime time.
Rich, I don't know, man. This has just been one of those games that doesn't make a lick of sense.
In-game live, overtime.
You want to give you over 3-1 on a pretty good team. It's hard not to take some flyers.
Football full circle.
Well, NFL officials stink. They always will stink, and they'll always ruin the game. That's just part of what it is.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we got some big games this week, including my Michigan Wolverines in the national championship, but my Buffalo Bills in a big game against Drew's Miami Dolphins as well.
Uh-oh.
But first things first, Drew, you told me too, and I said, because you're an Auburn guy, and I do know there's a big difference between a Rose Bowl Alabama crowd and a frat boy Saturday night, bro, on campus, okay? I totally get the difference. But Alabama fans were they were nice. But I was thinking of, man, I understand that, though. I was like, it was a lot of older people and kind of richer people and stuff. But the students, there were still some students there. And you know what? The young drunk kids and stuff like that. But I don't know, like when you've been at the Rose Bowls before, but I saw other people talking about the Oregon USC game that they were there. And there wasn't one confrontation. You know what I mean? Like, people were like, no, after you go ahead. Like, fans were buying beers for each other in the stadium. And somebody told me, they said, it's the damn Rose Bowl. It's so special in there. It's impossible to be a jerk. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm walking, I'm like, I had a smile on my face through the entire time I was in the stadium. I was just walking around with a smile. I was like, man, this place is awesome, man.
I got to get to this place.
Except the fact that, like, it's, on the side of a mountain in the middle of nowhere, and you get stuck there for 6 hours after.
It needs to get stuck. But, right, Gabe? It's pretty.
I just want to say the Alabama fans were the ones that and I met a lot of them. Like, they were all over the stadium and stuff. They were cool, although there were more Michigan fans, and there's going to be a lot more Michigan fans, guys, in this championship game, too. They're just bigger than Washington.
Yeah,
they're just
that's
bigger.
True.
They have more fans.
Sure.
They're a bigger operation. It's different. Like, it's next. It's like, like you say, Drew, in the SEC, it's just, just means more. Like, Michigan's like that. It's just different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the alumni
totally
have
agree.
money, and they're going to be there, bro.
Oh, yeah. And it's the brand behind it. I mean, Michigan's one of, if not the biggest brands in college football, and it's been a while since they've won. So, it's like building up for them. I'll actually use like Cam Stewart. It's like the sizzle and the steak. That makes sense in like the fans and the traveling here as well. Of course, Washington's excited, and there will be a lot, but there's going to be a whole lot more Michigan fans. And Gabe, to circle around to what you were talking about before with the Alabama fans, they are nice fans, a lot of them. You get a little bit of that Southern drawl with it. But it's a lot different, and it's not only with Alabama or Auburn. It's really across college football. You will get two different atmospheres with the opposing fans. If you go into a road game, if you went into Tuscaloosa wearing Michigan colors, you would have a totally different outlook than going in a neutral area in the Rose Bowl.
Excellent
like
point.
it would be night and day.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I won't be going to see it.
Yeah.
I won't be
Everybody,
going
how you doing? Go Blue! There's this northerner, man. He's in big trouble.
Yeah, you're right. No, I totally get that. I totally get that. All right, Drew. So what are you doing with this football game? What's your pick? You said earlier you like the over this game, but what's your breakdown for this game? What are the keys? What's your breakdown?
All right, Gabe, here it is, boys. I don't think you're going to like it, but I like Washington in this game for a couple reasons, Gabe. Let me just paint the picture for you. Yes, number one defense, scoring in total. They're deserving of the number one spot at this point in the season. However, if I was going to build an offense brick by brick to go after this Michigan defense, Washington checks all the boxes. You want a complete passer. You want a good offensive line. And you want NFL wide receivers. Well, Washington has Michael Penix. He throws the ball down the field better than any college quarterback I can think of off the top of my head. We get the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line in front of them, and all three of their top receivers are going to get looks to catch footballs on Sundays. And then the coaching aspect of this coming into the national championship, Jim Harbaugh, you can't argue with his success with Big Blue. So much so, Gabe, that he's not denying facts. His agent is talking to NFL front offices. I don't love that for the psychology preparing for a national championship game. And Kalen DeBoer, he's one of the more underrated coaches, the Washington head coach. I love his profile overall, grinding his way up, Gabe. He was a high school football coach. He's won everywhere he's gone. He's 25-2 at Washington, and he's 5-0 straight up as an underdog. Meaning if you bet $100 on Washington every time they were an underdog with DeBoer heading the troops, you would have won $1,000. So, hey, overall, I think the Huskies are barking here. Give me Washington plus the 4.5, Gabe.
All very good points that you just raised. And you know what? It's Sioux Falls University, Drew. He went 67-3. 67-3. So he went 67-3 there, won multiple championships, riding a 21-game win streak right now. I've given him his flowers through the year at how he's adapted from sort of opponent to, I should say, against the Ducks, right? He's adjusted against the Ducks, did a nice job. I can't argue about Penix. Their wide receivers are second to none. But you talk about their offense, and once again, I'm going to go back to this, and people don't want to whoa, no, really? And okay. So just for the record, Washington averaged 37.6 points per game on offense. Michigan are averaging 36 points per game. Michigan have had a top 10 offense all year. People just don't want to acknowledge it. But so let's just call it the same number. You have one team that scores 37 points a game. You have one team that scores 36 points a game. Washington gave up 24 points a game. Michigan gave up 10 points a game. So now, all right, now we're just sort of getting into into that reality there. Then we get into the rushing yards, as I talked about earlier, about Michigan. Michigan averages 160 yards a game on the ground. Washington gave up nearly 140. So right then and there, we just sort of know, all right, Michigan's going off for $150, except I think they're going to go off for 200. So I think Washington, Drew, are built to stop the pass, right? They, you talked about their elite wide receivers. They're a Pac-12 built team. They've got these stud wide receivers. They've got stud DBs as well.
They do.
Yet they're vulnerable against the run. And we saw the Texas Longhorns got away from it for whatever reason. They should have stuck to it more. But they racked up nearly 200 yards on the ground against them. And we've seen Michigan have not been shy, Drew, to run the football in these situations. Against Penn State, they ran the football 32 times in a row. All right? Mm-hmm. Against Ohio State, I think once it was 16. Right? If they see that they are punishing you in the trenches, they'll go back to it. And I think they're going to do this to Washington. They're going to rope-a-dope them. Then they're going to bait them into a little bit of a play action. And boom, McCarthy's going to hit them down the field. But I respect your opinion, Drew. And I can't dismiss the Washington Huskies and what they've done this year. But I haven't been betting against them. I liked them against the Ducks the first time they played. I liked them against the Ducks the second time they played, outright on the money line. I liked them against Texas. So everybody, and I know, I remember everybody's stuff all the time. Everybody was like, oh, no, Oregon are going to beat them. That's why they're 10-point favorites. And now the same people are telling us, well, no, Michigan won't be able to beat them. The same people have thought Alabama were going to be too much. For the most part, Drew, people have been off with this, and they've sort of been a day late and $1 short. But I think this is where it's the end of the line. Only one team can win. If you look at Washington, guys, and good for them. They hung on. They won these football games. Stanford gave them all that they could handle. All right, they won that game off the top of my head 40-30. What was it? 43-33.
They had problems with Washington State in the Apple Cup in the last game. Washington State almost beat them.
Arizona State, October 21st, 15-7. All right, there's another thing, too. Washington's offense, for all their gaudy numbers, it's really tailed off. I know they played well against Texas, but over the last month of the season, they scored 24 points against a terrible Washington State team. Get it? Rivalry game, fine. Oregon State, pretty good. Okay, they scored 22 points. 35-28 against Utah. You know what I'm saying? The last sort of month of the season, things tightened up a little bit.
Also, Gabe, Dylan Johnson ran for 2.3 yards a clip against Texas, a team that is not even in Michigan's hemisphere against the run. He's banged up heading into this game. You don't think Michigan's D coordinator is going to have even more plans? They know Washington has to throw to succeed anyway, yet their star running back is injured and did not play. Hey, he got a couple touchdowns in that game. Who cares? They were inside the 5-yard line. Take a look at his numbers. 2.3 a carry, That's not going to get it done against Michigan. It's unacceptable. You got Texas ran, their back had 7.1. The problem is he fumbled the ball. He didn't take care of the football. So that's very important in my opinion. Like 2 points.
I can't disagree. Listen, I don't think Washington are going to be able to run the ball on Michigan, but they will be able to throw. They've got 3 stud wide receivers.
They do.
Someone's going to get open. Someone's going to get open. But Drew, Michigan's DBs are elite, bro. Like Johnson and Sanistro, these kids are freaking good. Like we've got like talent. You've got NFL dudes across the board going head to head here, and you'll notice a little change in the guard, Drew. Both teams are going to be Big Ten teams. Like this is sort of an exposure that it's not just about the South. You know what I mean? Like Penix, top 10 pick. McCarthy, who knows what he's going to do. Odunze is going to be the second wide receiver taken after Marvin Harrison for sure. That's a slam freaking dunk. Blake Corum's probably going to be the first running back taken. Right? Like this is, with all the merger and stuff, the SEC's fallen behind a little bit, Drew, I think. I talked about it last night.
You may be onto something. Maybe they're reeling him in here.
He's right.
I think regionally, the SEC needs to start stealing some more teams. I'm just being real.
It's true.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
56% is really good. Anything close to 60 is retirement level stuff. So there's way more people on the lower side of that. You have to learn how to manage that. This is a game of give and take. Or come in quick and hit them and get out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina, we've got new sports books operating for licenses, and a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
They were saying there's no way he could not possibly do this. He won't hold out.
Pro League Soccer
The
powered by Marca.
Scoring teams in the league. They have 80 goals so far.
College football today.
The Hawks' team total in the first half is 0.5.
Pro football today.
Interesting props in this game, but I would be cautious laying this number here with the Houston Texans.
In-game live all access.
In the NFC in terms of these wild cards and in terms of the playoff picture.
In-game live, prime time.
Rich, I don't know, man. This has just been one of those games that doesn't make a lick of sense here.
In-game live, overtime.
You want to give you over 3-1 on a pretty good team. It's hard not to take some flyers.
Football full circle.
Well, NFL officials stink. They always will stink, and they'll always ruin the game. That's just part of what it is.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. We're kicking it. We got a full house on the program tonight. 1-1 on the Strip right now. The Panthers and the Knights are tied up at 1. The Kraken are up 1-0 on the Sens. And still scoreless in Los Angeles. Actually just got started. We just got started. We're a couple of minutes in. And we're a couple of minutes in Winnipeg and San Jose. Basketball, the Nuggets are up 40-37. Make it 40-39. Kind of a higher scoring game. What's the in-game total? 240.5 right now. So they're already at 79 points with 8.5 minutes left in the first half of play. We're talking about the national championship, and we got to get into the NFL as well. But Drew Martin with us. And Drew, so you're taking Washington plus the points, and you're taking the over of this football game, right? That's those are your picks?
Yeah, like the over, and I'm on the Huskies, guys. Think they are barking. Again, Kalen DeBoer, their head coach, 5-0 against the spread and straight up as the underdog. Let me leave you with this, Gabe. How about a storybook Disney storybook tale here? The Conference of Champions, the Pac-12, and its last game as we know it. Hoist the trophy. Makes for a heck of a 30 for 30 episode in a couple years. Think that's a good theme to this national championship as well.
Morency, he's like, cut his mic. Hey, Drew.
No, he makes a good point. It is crazy that in the last year, it's tragic. That's what it is.
It is tragic.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Tragic. It really
because
is.
the Pac-12 has as good a football as they've ever had right now, and it's completely fractured. It really is sad, but that's just the beginning of the end. When, like in 10 years, I brought it up last night, Drew. The big merger, you'll see. I'll call it like in 2035 or something. The Big Ten and the SEC will merge. They'll turn it in. It'll be like an NFL type of thing. You'll have like an NFC and an AFC. Right, so you have the SEC, they'll have sort of mixed games, they can play against each other and all this type of stuff. These conferences won't matter. Like, it's pretty crazy to say, but and if you look, the academic ones are the ones that are sort of falling because it's going to show that money just prevails, sports win in the sense that look at like these massive institutions, man, like Stanford and Cal, Washington, USC, UCLA. These are big schools that have thrown tradition out the window for money. They don't care about Bill Walton and the Conference of Champions and all this stuff. They have no interest in it. And the next one, Drew, will be the ACC.
Yeah, I can see the ACC.
Florida State and Clemson are already trying to just like shake it and break it and tear it down. And poor Cal and Stanford just joined them, poor bastards. They just joined the ACC, and now Clemson and Florida State won out.
You're right, Gabe. They picked the wrong lady. It's like, hey, you're available. It's like, bad choice. We're getting divorced.
It's a $150 million buyout, $146 million. They're not going anywhere. And they're stupid. They're going to be in a damn playoff next year anyways if they win. So I don't know what they're crying about.
You know what, Gabe? With Florida State, like they're already trying to get out of this. You know that's the beginning of the end. I don't think like with the SEC getting in and all the votes, like obviously Florida isn't going to want Florida State in the SEC. They want to be, own the recruiting in the Sunshine State. The Big Ten should go after Florida State. Could you imagine the Big Ten going down in the South and grabbing a program like that?
That's the final. That's like a gang takeover, though, Drew. That's exactly what I was talking about. So look, the Big Ten is in on the East Coast, right? They've got like Rutgers, which it doesn't matter, but it's more about the property. They have Madison Square Garden as their use if they want for the Big Ten basketball tournament. They're on TV in New York City. They own the Midwest already. Now they have the West Coast with USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. What are they missing? Right? Texas and Florida.
Yeah.
And the Miami Hurricanes are desperate. They would love to get into the Big Ten. And I think Florida State, too, like you said, I think it sounds crazy, but if you're the Big Ten, this is like it's almost like we talked about, Drew, when I said Formula One. They went into Florida. They're like, yeah, you know what? We're going to go into NASCAR country. Right? We're going to go in right into their backyard. We're going to go in Las Vegas where NASCAR has a thing and they're really big there, and we're going to take that over. So there's sort of this, the outside forces are coming for the South. That's what I was sort of talking about, like for the Big Ten and like the SEC. If I was Sankey, bro, in the SEC, Mr. Mighty Greg Sankey, I'd be thinking, I better start picking this pace up because these guys ain't playing around. And all you need to know is Washington and Michigan are playing each other now. They're going to play each other next year, October 5th. What's the biggest game of the week going to be next year, October 5th? The defending the national, like, they're starting to buy the storylines now. They're going to own this. And it'll be like, and we'll see what happens too, Drew, with your mighty SEC not on CBS anymore, which I don't know.
Your mighty
What?
SEC.
Yeah, I know.
I love this. Sorry, this
The
is
mighty
comedy.
SEC.
Your mighty
No,
SEC.
That's another just killing the tradition.
It's
What,
true.
they're going to the ESPN,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Drew?
I don't like it. I grew up with that 3:30 at CBS.
Yeah.
I still have that like kind of ringtone in my head. I was always excited for that game.
Yeah, you're right. It's like brainwashing.
It's
true.
It is. It's a great thing.
You get
And
used to
I'm with
hating
you,
on
Gabe.
Gary Danielson every Saturday, going,
Yeah,
God,
I
I
like
hate
Gary.
this guy, but
Yeah.
you want to hear him.
You like him.
Yeah.
Yes, Gary.
He's one of those guys that reels you in. You don't like him, but
Yeah,
then every
he
now
does.
and again, he catches you.
call,
Gabe,
man.
I think you bring up great points. And if I'm Greg Sankey, I would be on the phone all over. I'd be calling. I'd go back at them, go up into their territory a little bit, find out what institutions aren't happy in the Big Ten. You know, who's kind of getting dissed. Maybe go after something like that, just like the Big Ten. Hey, you brought up Miami. Could you imagine the Hurricanes and the Big Ten making those trips? Man, talk about recruiting. That would be fun as well. And they'd get more money. So people talking about the Miami Hurricanes, they don't have an on-campus stadium. Like if they got the Big Ten money, maybe they could grab some more land in Coral Gables. Then with the Hurricanes with an on-campus stadium, that would
They
be
would
great.
actually sell games out because Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State fans would come there. And you know what I mean? It's just sort of, it
That's
changes
the point.
everything. So speaking of Florida and football, Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills this week. Man,
How about
crazy
it?
game. Like the Bills could win a division. They could be a wild card or they might miss the playoffs. Like there's that much on the line for the Bills. The Dolphins are in the playoffs no matter what happens, but they would obviously like to win a division. You're the Dolphin fan, Drew. How do you feel about the game?
Sure, obviously want to win the division. However, Gabe, as a Dolphins fan, this is tough for me to say, but the Bills kind of have the Dolphins number, and the Dolphins, we've seen it outside of the Cowboys games. They struggle against the better teams, the teams that are more physical. I think the Bills are really going to take it to them. I think they're going to win the AFC East division here, going on the road and doing so. Plus the fact, look at the Finns right now, Gabe. They're banged up. I mean, they just lost, one of their best linebackers, Tua, a little bit nicked up as well. Hill's house burned down. It's kind of not looking pretty right now for the Dolphins. I think the Bills take it. I would lay it's only 2.5 now. Lay the 3 anyway. I think the Bills win by margin.
It seems to be lining up perfectly for the Buffalo Bills, doesn't it? Just that, as far
Really
as as everything lines up, I believe that either the Jags or the Steelers are going to lose this week. And the Bills are going to know they're going to get in the playoffs anyways. I wouldn't be surprised if they both lose, Cam. But I talked about the Ravens beating the Steelers, but the Titans could beat the Jags as well. The Titans are going to throw the kitchen sink at this game. This might be Vrabel's last game with Tennessee. There's talk today that this could be it for Derrick Henry for real with the Tennessee Titans. They're doing it for themselves. This isn't about, they want to play spoiler. No. They want to have one last, beer with Vrabel in the room after type of deal. And I'm not saying Vrabel's getting fired. I think he might be the new coach of the New England Patriots. So there's that much going on that Henry's talking about retiring or whatever, and Vrabel is, there's this big Patriot thing that if Belichick's gone, Kraft's made up his mind. He'll pay whatever it takes. He wants Vrabel to be his guy. I'll see if that's true or not, but I'm kind of buying into it a bit. But what do you think, Drew? Can the Baltimore Raven backups beat the Steelers? I think they can.
I think they can as well, Gabe, and especially catching points. And what the Ravens, remember how good they have been in games that don't matter, in the
24
preseason.
straight preseason games, bro. I brought it up. 24 straight wins.
Exactly, Gabe. And a lot of sports bettors out there, if you're new to this, I don't think a lot of people realize when you can bring up stats like that, great stat, Gabe, 24 straight preseason, and what it is, it's a game that doesn't really matter. But when you can bring a stat like that and bring it into this realm of the last week of the season when it also doesn't matter, those are the stats that like aren't necessarily, the trends that all the odds makers are in tune to, that the market is really in tune to. And that's how you win in this business, man. Finding things like that can carry over, that not everybody kind of can realize off the bat. And I think that's kind of like exhibit A right here with the Ravens. I mean, they've just been smashing people, and they got depth. They got depth at the quarterback position as well to still run the same profile of offense. I like the Ravens here, plus the points. I think they win outright.
Cam, it's down to 3.5 now. It was 4. It's down to 3.5.
Huntley almost beat the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow as their quarterback when healthy. One play at the 1 yard line with the trying to get over the line, fumble. Hubbard took the ball, took it back the other way. You said it, Morency. These guys never lose in the preseason. They're deep as hell. Their backups are better than a lot of Pittsburgh's players. Pittsburgh's hot. I'll give them credit for that, but it's Baltimore nothing for me. Like, how do you go against this team? So I'm reading your guys' mail. I think it's the Ravens are, and you don't think the Ravens want to punch Pittsburgh in the face and say, yeah, good luck getting into the playoffs? These franchises hate each other. They're not going to give them any favors.
And Pittsburgh are going to be in a battle to win the game. You don't really want to have them win by 4 points. So now, like I said, it was 4 all week. It's down to 3.5. Drew, what do you think about the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts? Winner of this game gets in the playoffs.
Another great game, Gabe. I'll tell you. For the division, I'd go with CJ Stroud.
Minshew.
Yeah, man. I mean, we get the mustache going. Look, the Indianapolis Colts being at home, but I actually think it being in a dome, CJ Stroud, the kind of more explosive offense, I think the Texans take it. I really do. Just -1 here, almost pick the winner. I think the Texans take this one, Gabe.
You know what? I'm having a hard time not taking the Colts here in this game. But what you just said, too, I can see this being a wild game, man. The total's 47.5. I can see this game going over the number, even though they're playing to get into the playoffs.
Agreed.
Neither defense is great. Like, both teams you can throw on. One thing, CJ Stroud's not 100%, though. You saw last week. They didn't want to get him hit. He got rid of the ball really quickly. They ran the ball more than they normally did. So that's something to keep your eye on. What do you think, Drew, in your backyard here with Tampa, Carolina, Atlanta, New Orleans? Fascinating. And the Saints-Falcons winner could win the division if the Bucs lose. So if the Bucs lose, the winner of the Falcons and Saints is the division winner. But if the Buccaneers win the football game, they win the division. What do you think about that? Who do you like more than? Do you like one game more than the other?
I would go with the Bucs if you need anything. I just think the Carolina Panthers are fade city. They're having all kinds of problems, have a lot to do this offseason. I'll tell you, Gabe, I'll leave you with one. The Rams and the 49ers. Who's playing quarterback for these two teams? That Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz. And getting into the 40s, nah, I don't see it. I like that game to the under, Gabe.
I think it's a sharp pick. I like where you're going with that. Sean McVay talking about preseason. He doesn't like showing his hand. He's in the playoffs. Great stuff, Drew.
Later, Drew.
Thanks, boys.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro football today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
56% is really good. Anything close to 60 is retirement level stuff. So there's way more people on the lower side of that. You have to learn how to manage that. This is a game of give and take. Or come in quick and hit them and get out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
the irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina, we've got new sports books operating for licenses. And, you know, a lot of news always coming out of there. One of the fresh sports betting states.
Well, they're a little behind the ball there, so I don't know if they'll be at the starting line in North Carolina. But yeah, a really interesting mix of applicants this early on so far.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
They were saying there's no way he could not possibly do this. He won't hold out.
Pro League Soccer
The
powered by Marca.
Scoring teams in the league. They have 80 goals so far.
College football today.
The Hawks team total in the first half is 0.5.
Pro football today.
Interesting props in this game, but I would be cautious laying this number here with the Houston Texans.
In-game live all
You see it in the
access.
NFC in terms of these wild cards and in terms of the playoff picture.
In-game live prime time.
Rich, I don't know, man. This has just been one of those games that doesn't make a lick of sense here.
In-game live overtime.
You want to give the over 3-1 on a pretty good team. It's hard not to take some flyers.
Football full circle.
Well, NFL officials stink. They always will stink, and they'll always ruin the game. You know, that's just part of what it is.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. I'm looking at our chat here right now. And I like this crowd better than last night, actually. You're fine-looking group here. In a sense, we have a much more pro-Michigan crowd. Last night was more of a trollish type of thing. People don't even have, like, any good take or point. They just, like, want to see it, whatever team I like lose. But we seem to have a lot of pro-Michigan, but good points. Just talking about the dominance on the lines and stuff like this. And there's so much talk. Everyone keeps talking about the Joe Moore Award. All right. Best offensive line in the country. Michigan won the Joe Moore Award last year. All right. Didn't help them against TCU. So the fact of the matter is, yeah, Washington's offensive line is good. They're really good. You know, they've only given up 11 sacks all year. But we need to reiterate the Pac-12. How many like very good defenses are there in the Pac-12?
I would say 0 to 2.
I would,
and that's reaching with Oregon State and Utah. It's a reach.
Like, put it this way, and Utah weren't good this year.
Yeah, they're beat
I'll
up.
put it this way, Cam. There's one player in the Pac-12 on defense that's going to get drafted in the top 10, and he's on UCLA. The defensive lineman, Laitu on UCLA, he's like the best defensive lineman in that conference.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's this big, you know what I mean? It's a pass-happy conference. You've got very good DBs. Like if you want a defensive back, it's sort of like getting a goalie in the Quebec Junior League. Goalies see a lot of shots, so you're going to get good goalies because they're used to seeing 50 shots a game. You know, defensive backs in the Pac-12, these guys are used to defending the pass 62 times a night, right? So you get good defensive backs, but they're not used to, like, stopping the run. And even though Washington can, they've got good athletes on the defensive line. They're tough guys and stuff, so they're not going to get bullied. I don't think, like, Michigan are going to bully them, but they're going to wear them out. The guys on Washington are going to get tired of Blake Corum running it down their throat every play.